You might hate me for it, but ultimately, you're going to ask the question, who the fuck is this guy?
This is like top level, very easy win.
And I was like, there's no fucking way I'm doing this in the school system. Now, I'm blessed to be in a position where I don't even have to check that account. I don't even know what I spend on my bills.
We're going to be lighting ourselves on fire a hell of a lot more.
Insecurities breed all of the issues that you see in people.
It's fucking cool to have nice cars.
The system is not built for you to win.
We've done £26.7 million worth of properties in the last year.
Because there's always sacrifices to be made to be extreme at something.
This is very cool. So I'm someone I can genuinely help people live a better life.
And therefore, I put as much money back into my businesses and make as much money as humanly possible.
Everything I say is what I actually believe. Everything I've fucking told everyone on this podcast, I even swear because it's me and who I am. Content is the most important thing on the planet. Building attention, so you have to do it properly.
Yeah.
Like, it's no longer an afterthought, which it used to be, where I was like, oh, you know, I'll do my business, I'll fulfill my clients, I'll sort my staff out, then I'll do some content. It's no, content first.
Yeah.
I'm a content-led business now.
It is business.
I'm a content-led business. The content is built off the back of the business is built off the content that you're building.
Yeah.
And if anyone that's not up with that, to speed with that now is dead.
Yeah. I mean, audience, you need audience. Definitely need audience, and I noticed that quite a lot. Are we rolling? Yeah. So attention is definitely where everything is. That's what I noticed. If you have an audience, if you can capture people's attention, you're most likely going to make money.
Well, if you look at, for example, now attention, as I like to state, is the new currency of the planet. So anyone with attention is the new pioneers, the new innovators, the new empires, basically. So you take The Rock, for example, he garnered a load of attention through Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, right? He garnered a load of attention through his wrestling film career, which made him millions.
Yeah.
And then off the back of that, created a tequila brand, which was worth billions.
Yeah.
Take someone like Kylie Jenner, who was a influencer, built off the back of her sister doing some naughty videos, Kim Kardashian. Then her sister's come out of nowhere. They've done a reality TV show that's gone ballistic, got a load of attention. She creates a cosmetic range of products.
I think they have even some other stuff. Like
she got
clothing brands with
the youngest billionaire on the planet.
Yeah, yeah.
Conor McGregor, like his whiskey brand. You take George Clooney. You take there's so many case studies of this. Attention, if directed in the right way, is what makes money. And then you talk about sponsorships, right? Everyone goes, oh, that tennis player like made a load of money from his sponsorships. No, the person that made the money was the company that hired him for his attention, because it's the attention that they want. And they made there's a reason they're paying him £50 million a year, right? Yeah. Because he made infinitely more on the sale of the products for that company.
Yeah.
Attention is everything. And if you don't have that, you're lost. You're a ghost.
Yeah. I think that's why Tate blew up so quickly. Andrew Tate.
I love the guy. Well, I love the guy in the fact that I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but that's a big part of why he's popular. But he understood the core principles of attention. He understood virality. There's three key components to virality. That's relatability, so people that are watching it can understand, relate to the thing that's being said. It has to come across authentically, so it's not only be relatable, but it needs to sound like the person saying it believes in it.
Yeah,
that's important. That's a piece that people miss, because the delivery of it is super important. So Andrew Tate's one of the best deliverers of content I've ever seen. When he says it, you can see that he believes it, or at least you think he believes it, and he says something that's relatable. And the last component is he says it in a polarizing way, so that someone has an opinion on that thing, whether they agree with him or don't agree with him. No one's sitting on the fence. No one's going with Andrew Tate, yeah, I'm not quite sure about. Like, everyone has an opinion on everything he says, good or bad. So for that reason, he understood that, and then understood just the platforms and the algorithms to then get that mental. So massive respect for the guy. Yeah. Plus, he likes Eastern Europe like I do. So I got to tip my hat to him for that.
Actually, I'm curious. You came to Bulgaria.
Yes.
So now you have a residence here.
Yep.
Which I'm so happy about, because this is just amazing, because someone like you who actually made it in the UK decided to come to Bulgaria to have a residence here. Not full time, but I honestly wonder why. Because for example, Tate chose Romania, which is probably one of the options maybe you considered. But why Bulgaria?
I'll start by saying Bulgaria is one of the best places I've ever been. Like, I've been to a fair few places now, and I fucking love it here. It's awesome. The people are great. The food's good. But I'll go back a little bit. I started looking at Bulgaria because I've got several businesses, class as an entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of them don't need to be run in any set place. They're service-based businesses. So I don't have like offices. I don't have staff that need to be. Most of my staff actually aren't even in the UK. I've got Filipino staff. I have American staff. I have Bulgarian staff now. And as a result, I was looking at the taxes I'm paying in the UK, which makes your eyes water when you look how much taxes you pay, right? And I was, okay, so that's one element. And then also a lot of my competition was moving to Dubai with 0% tax. It was at the time of them moving. And I'm there I'm getting absolutely slapped here because I'm now competing against people that have got way better margins than me just because they're paying a lot less tax. And also the staff rate in the UK was just mental. So it was like hitting my bottom line so hard that I was struggling to grow. And it wasn't that the businesses, some of the businesses were slowing right down because taxes are just getting ridiculous and they're only going up. So then I sat down, I was like, okay, where can I move my businesses to that don't need to be there, and where could I potentially move to? Because there's a whole other host of reasons that we'll go into in a second why I was starting to despise the UK for a lot of things. So I looked at Dubai, I looked at Portugal, I looked at Spain, Marbella specifically, and I looked at Bulgaria. And Bulgaria came to because I had a friend of mine that had set some businesses up here, and he had a lawyer, a guy called Jordan, that he was working with and recommended. So I thought I'll just pop out. It's only 2.5 hours from the UK to 3 hours, depending on the winds. Yeah. I think I got out here this time in 2 hours 40, so it was great. I thought I'll pop out, and then I got here, and I was like, this place feels. This is nice. My wife's Iranian, so we spent a lot of time in Iran, and I saw a lot of similarities. Like Tehran, the city is very similar to Sofia with the mountains around. Like you've got Fatosha Mountains. They have mountains around. I was like, this feels quite homely here. I feel quite good. And then straight away I got off the plane and I was like, there's clearly men and there's clearly women. I was like, I know that sounds crazy, right? But
can you believe it?
The fact that I sat there and was like, how the hell have I noticed that there's clear men and clear women, there's masculine men and feminine women? And then I suddenly realized that the fact that I'm even seeing this and is actually consciously springing to mind that that's a problem with the UK.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I really need to move from the UK and spend less time there because I have 2 boys now as well. So anyway, that was one thing. So I got here and spent some time here. I stayed at the Maranello Hotel, which is quite extra, which is kind of cool. It was a nice experience. I think,
it's extra.
It's very extra. Yeah. So I was like, this is quite cool. It was an interesting time, and then I stayed here for a week, and I was like, no, I could see myself for one, like spending time here. So that was a really important tick list. People were polite. Like I think I said to you before, like they're very direct. They say what they feel. They don't mix their words. It's actually how I am. It's not rude. It's just, I'm honest.
Truth.
It's honest,
you
right?
Be honest, yeah, of course.
And then, so then I looked at it, and then here you have 10% corporation tax and 5% dividend tax for, depending on, obviously, roughly speaking, or generally speaking, which compared to the UK is a fraction on some of the businesses that would, like I could run from here. And the staffing is, the wages are lower. People work harder. Like the culture's better. And I said that, so that was like a big tick. Prices here are cheaper. So looking at Dubai, it's 0% tax. It's a 7-hour flight. I was looking at villas for $5 to $10 million was what I would have been buying out there. And by the time I probably moved, it would be more expensive. Yeah. And it gives you something nice, but it's not crazy good. You spend $5 to $10 million here, woo, you're getting something pretty special. And also the fact that there's just so much culture here. It's like Bulgaria's been around forever. And I like that. There's some permanency to it. There's some security in the fact that if you look at patterns, you can look at things that have happened over the last 100 years, 200 years, and Bulgaria's not changed that much. Dubai was a desert 50 years ago. So I was like,
super rapid change.
Super rapid change, which to me provides risk.
Yeah.
Because I can't, so for me, this was just like a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, people definitely here are quite patriotic. So you would notice
which I like. I am too. So, I mean, not I was.
Yeah.
So the other big thing as well was, so a big reason is I've got 2 boys. I've got a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, Morgan and Hugo. Love them to bits. I didn't care about the wokeism in the UK and the influence that had on me because, I'm a fully grown man. I shut off within my circle. I speak to people outside of its noise. I don't listen to it. I don't pay attention. Everyone in my circle, we're killers, we're hunters, we're out building empires. I don't care what anyone else is doing. It wasn't until the fact that I had kids, I didn't think about it till after I had kids. Maybe it was a selfish thing, but they're sponges. They absorb everything that they are open to, and also they spend a lot of their time at school where I'm not influencing them. And my family's not influencing them. I have a Muslim wife, like if they come from a very strict Muslim family, so they're very traditional values. I have traditional values. I come from a family that believes in like a family unit. Men and women, like traditionally raised families, is like what I believe to be the best for an upbringing for a kid, right?
Yeah.
Bar none. And that's what I wanted for my kids. But then I suddenly started seeing the influences that were out there in the world that my kids were going to start being open to. And I thought, I can't control that.
And also, you don't agree with that.
I don't agree with it, right? So, okay, how do I solve this problem without damaging them or like uprooting the whole family? And I thought, well, we could move to Iran, but there's a whole other issue in Iran at the moment with the government and the people. They're having a horrible time, and I feel so sorry for them. But that's not a good place right now for my kids to be brought up.
Definitely not, yeah.
Dubai's too far, and like you said, lack of culture. So Bulgaria, I was like, this is the great place where I can spend some time in the UK with them and some time here. So they get a difference of cultures and influences, and they can make their own decision. They can see both.
Yeah.
They can see and then make their own decision what they think is good.
Yeah.
I don't want to force my opinions on my kids. I want my kids to come to their own decisions about what they think is good and bad without me forcing it, because you force something to a kid, you might trigger them the other way. So it's very important that I show them the right path and I let them come to their own conclusion that this is a good way to live and a good way to be, rather than try and force it on them, because I think that's very dangerous too.
Yeah, that's very dangerous.
And that's the same way I kind of get anyone that I'm doing business with or my staff to try and get on board with any idea. Is like, you should never force an idea. If the idea is a good idea, people will adopt it.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? That you shouldn't ever have to force a good idea on someone, because it probably isn't a good idea then.
Yeah, I agree. That actually comes. I've noticed that even with stuff like products and services. If something is really good, you don't even need to market it. You know, like it's debatable in some places. But for example, when you see ChatGPT, it went crazy when it got released. I don't think they have any marketing campaign. They don't know anything.
The market never lies. The market never lies.
Yeah.
People don't lie.
Yeah.
If something is good, people buy it.
Yeah.
People get so arrogant or so emotionally attached to the thing that they've produced that because they like it, doesn't mean that anyone else does.
Yeah.
In business, you have to be completely detached emotionally from the prospect of this thing might not actually be great for everyone else. That's okay.
Yeah.
And people will quickly tell you, the market votes very quickly if something's good or not. There's one caveat to that though. If you get the timing wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at Bebo and MySpace, for example, the two social media platforms that were predated Facebook, they had the same idea as Facebook, if not earlier and better. Yeah. They didn't win because the market wasn't ready. Yeah. And that still comes back to the same thing. Like, it wasn't a good idea at the time. It was a great idea, just was not right for the time. And this is the danger that people get all the time. People have great ideas all the time. They might have had the mobile phone idea, but too early. Yeah. If the market's not ready for it, the people aren't ready to change that thing, it's still the wrong time, and therefore it's not right. Yeah. No matter how good the fucking idea is. So, right timing, great product, you'll absolutely fly. And if it's not, something's wrong. Your offering's wrong.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. You need to consider your product if it's not being well. So actually, something I want to discuss is, I know you started your journey very early. You were 13, I think, which is absolutely insane. Like, you're like in your early 30s now. This was like almost 20 years ago. I can't imagine someone 13 being so money driven, or not actually money driven, but like business driven in a way you were. And like then I think you did e-commerce a bit after that, like when you were 16. I want to know about this journey. How did you start it? Why at age of 13 did you decide to work? This is just really interesting to me.
So I've never wanted to be like other people. I think we've probably established that already. Like I'm not normal, and in that sense. And I realized that when I was at school, I very quickly saw the system. What I am good at, one thing I'm good at, and I'll give myself credit for, is that I can see patterns and where things are going. So I saw my life just unfold when I was at school. I got to secondary school, because I think you get to secondary school 11 or 12. So I was in year 7 or 8, and I just saw my life laid out in front of me. I was like, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to go to college, go to university. I'm going to get some job. I'm going to get a mortgage and probably earn some decent money and die. I thought, fuck that. I don't want that. I literally just saw that. I just saw it as a kid. I was like, there's no way. And I saw that, then I also saw that the majority of people didn't even live a good life. They weren't even that financially wealthy, and especially the people that my parents knew. My parents certainly weren't, and none of my family was. I have no wealthy fat people in my family, none.
And not that happy, which is another.
Not happy, and not what. And I thought, well, at least I could be sad and rich, like that'd be okay. But like, like it was just misery, and then people just conforming to belief systems that they believe they should follow, without any or rationale as to why. And I was like, well, I was lucky. I was fucking blessed to have born in an era where the internet was
just
concepted. The social media platforms were starting, mobile phones were becoming a thing. Like I was blessed with, talk about timing. Nailed the timing, right? the year I was born, and I was like, fuck, I've got an opportunity here. And I saw my friends doing paper rounds. They're only like fuck all money a week. Like I was like out on the piss. I did one paper round with a friend just to try it. I didn't get a paper round, and I was like, nah, fuck no, I'm not doing this. And I also said to myself, one big thing as a kid, I was like, one big thing that was probably my biggest ever goal was to be able to pay for my utility bills, like my gas, electric, water, and my food shopping, and never have to look at my bank account that pays for that stuff. I never want, and like now I'm blessed to be in a position where I don't even have to like check that account. I don't even know what I spend on my bills. I don't know. That was like a huge goal of mine, and I was like, I'm never going to check it. That's what I want to do, because that for me was like, I think that's true freedom. Just your bare necessities to live. And I was like, there's no fucking way I'm doing this in the school system. I remember sitting there, I was like, unless I go and do a really high paid job. So I was looking at city jobs as well. So I was going to either be a stockbroker or a fund manager. That was good. They pay well. But then there's other reasons. Okay, so I was a proper geek, huge geek. I was into Warhammer, painting, this, that, and the other. A massive geek. I collected coins, stamps, the whole lot. Loved coding. So then I was like, okay, all these, and this is the other thing, I saw the future. I was like, everyone's going to need one of these websites. Everyone's going to need one. So I was like, well, I'm going to fucking start making, I'm going to make one for myself. I made a Warhammer website with a friend. And I was like, okay, this is cool.
This is what year?
Huh?
What year are we talking?
This was, so I was 13. What year was that?
Early 2000s.
Early 2000s, just after, I think. So I used a software called Microsoft Front Page, which was like a really clunky code. And then I bought some books on CSS coding, JavaScript. I even bought PHP, which was obviously not for websites, HTML. And then I started building websites, and that was cool. So then I was like, right, okay, I can build websites now. And then I'm going to start, I want to get a business. So I spoke to my dad. He had a small manufacturing company. And he was like, I said, Dad, what do I need? He goes, well, you need an accountant, son. I was like, okay, get an accountant. So I found an accountant. I think I asked a few friends at school, and I got an accountant. Cool, you're a sole trader now. Right, so I can do my taxes. Now I need customers. So then I was like, right, I asked every single friend that I had at school. I was like, did your dad need a website? Did your dad need a website? And they were like, I managed to eventually find a family member, like it was a second cousin. They needed a website. And I think he just paid me out. Like, I just asked so many times. And he gave me a chance, and he paid me, this was back then, £300 for a website. It took me months to build. I mean, and the guy took the piss. He gave me, it was like a massive catalogue of information. I spent months on this bloody thing. But I got my money. I was like, yeah, this is good.
But you probably learned a lot.
I learned. So, I mean, I learned. That was the main thing. I learned the skills. And then from there, I then started building more websites for other people, because once I had one, no one really had them back then. It was easy. And then no one had them. And then what I started doing is I employed a couple of friends at school. So I said, right, you do graphics, you help me with the coding, and like, so then I'll get a job, and then I started paying them. And I must have been about 14 or 15 at this point.
Okay, wait. This is just insane here. So you're starting to have that entrepreneurial vision when you're 14, 15. So do you think that's something you always, like, you were born with?
Yes.
You think?
I don't think you can teach that in people. I will go out there on a limb and say this. I don't think you can teach people true entrepreneurship. Because it has to come from wanting it and enjoying it. I can teach someone, and I mentor people in business, and this is why I'm kind of validated and I'm kind of qualified to state this, because I've mentored thousands of people. I can make someone very rich in business, but I have to lay it out for them. For someone to see that without having it laid out for them is a gift.
I see.
You can mentor someone up to a certain point to do. I could get someone up to £1 million a year with them being quite bad at entrepreneurship, as long as they have good work ethic, they're skillful. But core true entrepreneurs, I see them a mile off. The way they think. It's like when I remember I was at university. I went to university as well. I did economics. And the way I could describe it is math, I'm good at math, but I'm not gifted at math. I had to work.
Yeah.
And then I used to go to economics with a guy called Ben, and there was another guy there called Eamon. And they're like, they're good friends of mine, and they're just fucking gifted. Like, you give them a maths equation, and this thing would just unravel in their head. And they'd be like, yeah, it's this. I'm like, how the fuck did you get to that? Like, where did that come from? They're like, well, do you not see it? Just like that happens and that happens. And I'm like, there's no way. So then I'd be like, I'd have to go away and like break down the algorithm, like figure out how this works, and then deconstruct the definition. Okay, I finally get it.
You back engineer it.
They back engineered it, right? So then they just got it.
Yeah.
I was like, I see business like they see math. That's the only way I can explain it. I see business the way they see math. The answer just, it comes to me and I love it, and it's a big puzzle. And when I think about it, the pieces of puzzle just start to click. I don't know how to teach that to someone. I can't teach that to someone.
I don't think it's possible to teach that to someone.
So I think you're born with that.
Yeah.
And the same way they were born with a math ability that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And that was so profound to me when I realized that. But I was like, what I can do is I can teach someone to be really good at math, and I can teach someone to be really good at business. But I can't make them entrepreneurs. Yeah. Entrepreneurs is born.
Yeah. So you started employing people. This was for the website building business.
Yes, initially. So I started building that, and then I realized I couldn't do it all on my own, and I was spending a lot of time. So I had a friend who actually, incidentally, he reached out to me the other day, Jamie, a guy called Jamie Shord. I got him, he got really good at graphics actually at school, and working with me on projects. And he ended up going off to work. He worked for Apple, Spotify, like he worked in London. He ended up being a massive graphic designer. I didn't know. His mum met my mum in town recently. And he was like, oh, Jamie's doing this. And she was like, my son's an entrepreneur doing this. So we both ended up following the passions off of those. But what happened was I was getting jobs, and then they were interested in what I was doing. And I was like, well, okay, do you want to learn this? And I was like, okay, you do this, I'll do this. And I basically just got them researching, and then I started paying them. So I'd get project work, and then I'd pay them a percentage of the project. I obviously wouldn't tell them what I got. They were very happy with the money. They were learning a skill. Yeah. And then I had another guy that came in called Tom, who started teaching me a bit about e-commerce. I didn't even know what that was at the time. He's like, oh, you can build these shops. I was like, yeah, but I can't code a shop, man. There's like loads of PHP in that. And he's like, no, there's like an open source code that you can take the shop and you can start coding it. And I was like, oh, so the base is there. He's like, yeah. I was like, what, can I change the template and everything? Yeah, it's all open source. I didn't even know what open source was at the time. He was like, you can just go in and change the code.
So this is 15, sorry, 15?
This was 14 and 15. 14, 15, I wasn't making a shop. And then so I don't know if you have the same thing here in Bulgaria, but you have something called beavers and scouts and stuff in the UK, which is like...
I don't think we have that.
Basically, it's like a little group of like people, and they go out in the forest, they build fires.
I know what it is. I don't think.
Okay, so
it's not that common. Or maybe we have. I don't know.
It's a bit of like a real geeky like community. Real men just go out and aren't bandits, you know. But like, they're this little group, and so he was part of like the Scout Society or something, and we built a little e-commerce store selling some of the merchandise for their local like Scouts group, which was like scarves and like jackets, and then the members could buy off of there. And then I was like, there's money in this thing. I was like, e-commerce, people buying stuff online, and then the order comes through and the money comes to your bank account. We connected up with PayPal. I managed to get the merchant provided like well-paid stuff, so the bank's connected. I suddenly started understanding how that works. And then my dad reached out to me and said, look, I've got this guy that can sell lighting. He can get hold of loads of lighting, but he just can't. Basically, he was selling business to business as a sales rep. He couldn't sell directly. So, right, okay. So let's say you've got a brand, Philips. You have Philips, I presume. Yeah. He would be a salesman for Philips. So he would get the best price. Where he would then go out and sell for Philips directly. Okay. And then he would sell to people that were shops. So he wouldn't sell directly to the customer.
Yeah, B2B.
So B2B. Yeah. I'm just trying to make it so that everyone understands. Yeah. And then he's not allowed to sell directly to customer because obviously he's buying it at business prices, people that before it gets to the market. So he wasn't allowed to sell directly to customer. So he came along and said to me, Elliot, look, I can get the best prices on the planet for these branded products. The demand's huge. You don't really have to market it because people already want them. I just can't be seen to sell it. But you can. and no one's really doing this e-commerce thing at the moment. Like this is kind of a new thing. All these stores are starting to do them. I said, yeah, fuck it, I'll build a website. I'll go 50-50. I think we both put in £500 each to set it up. We got a little bit of stock. We had his house. He had a house. I still live with my mum. I put some in my bedroom for some stock, and then the rest of the company would send out. Like this was drop shipping. Like, I didn't even know what it was back then. We didn't even have a name back then, right? And then I was like, okay. So then he was like, these are the prices we can get. No one can touch them. I can beat everyone online because I'm selling to them. So the people that pay £250,000 a month for this stock, we get the same prices as them. I was like, cool. So just no one can know I'm involved. I said, right, okay, let's do this. And that's how it started. So I built up this bloody thing. He gave me at this point I was 16. This is in the UK, you have something called sixth form college, which is like college before university. So you have secondary school, 2 years of sixth form, then you go to university. There's a summer holidays before secondary school. So at the age of 16, when the secondary school finishes, you get 6 weeks off before college starts. I spent that entire 6 weeks, Monday through to Sunday, 17 hours a day with the two guys from school, inputting product information into the e-commerce store, because he gave me basic catalogs. There's no discs. All I had was an image on a disc. Oh, shit. I had to go through every single catalog, and they had like 2 sentences of description. Can you imagine how many light bulbs there are and all the other, like there's thousands of different types. You got different bases, different color temperatures, and we had to load each one of them on individually and then create drop downs for them or manually. This stuff didn't exist back then. Like now, I just go, just send me the CSV and I'll upload the whole thing. Like I do 10,000 products in a second. Then it was like hours and hours, week after week of doing it. And I was like, got there. Site's ready to go. I was like, right, I'm going to become a millionaire. We launched the site and fucking no sales. A week goes by, no sales. 2 weeks go by, no sales. I was like, I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to market. Never done that before. Yeah. Never marketed online. So
you were like 15?
Yeah. Well, I was 16 at this point.
16 at this point.
And then I was like, I need to figure out how to get people to see the stuff, because like SEO is like search engine optimization, like showing up organically where you're not paying for it is too slow. I was like, I didn't even know how to do that at the time. I'd never done the marketing side, just built people websites. People had websites that I built like business cards. People would give them the URL and people would go to it. So then I was like, okay, I've got to learn a new skill. So I had a girlfriend at the time and I took her to Egypt for a week. And I bought a book on Google AdWords because this new thing had come out, it was Google AdWords. And I was like, okay, I'll learn this shit. Basically, Google AdWords is you bid on a keyword. So for example, Philips light bulbs, and then my ad can show at the top of Google if I pay enough. That's the basic principle. So then I just basically took her on holiday and I just I said, go sit by the pool, do whatever you want. I'm reading for the entire week. And she's like, what? I was like, I'm 17 at the time. I think I just had my birthday. She's like, I want to have fun. I was like, I don't. I want to learn Google AdWords. She's like, what the fuck is that? I was like, just go sit by the pool. I'm going to read this book. So I just sat there the whole week, read through Google AdWords, right? Highlighted everything. I didn't even have a computer with me. So I'd had to memorize the whole thing. And I was like, right, I've got it. I understand it. Remembered how to set up the campaigns. Got home, started Google AdWords. First day sale. I'm like, had a party. It was like the first sale came in. Second sale, third sale, fourth sale. And I was like, okay.
So that's working.
It's working. And then it was cheap. Google AdWords back then, I was paying like 5p to get a sale. 5 pence. Yeah. Now I'll be paying £3, £10 for the same. Damn. Because no one was doing it. Yeah. So then the fucking thing went nuts. I mean, my fucking bedroom was filled up full of stock. His house was full of stock. And then the suppliers couldn't keep up with the stuff. So then we got a warehouse, and then the thing expanded. We got sales staff, the whole thing, like bang. And then it ended up, that fast forwarded, I'll skip a few steps, but then I ended up going out to China because it was getting let down by suppliers in the UK. I went out to China on my own for 5 months. That's a story in itself. I got to the point where we were ordering so much stuff in the UK. We're doing millions of pounds a year online. And this is about...
And you're 17.
No. Oh. So I'm skipping a few steps. So this was like during university. So the 2 years at college, this thing just grew. I was there. I was at college, man. I had like the new iPhones. I had like an Audi car, and people were like, who the fuck is this guy? I was like, just there like in meetings. So I was coming out of classes and like having to fucking phone suppliers and deal with everyone. And everyone's like, who the fuck is this guy? And I was like, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I care what people think of me back then. So like image was important. I used to dress well and I had my phone and everyone was like, you just thought I was special. And like I said, then went to uni and the thing just kept growing and growing and going. And So much so that I realized that I didn't want to do finance anymore. I didn't want to go down the route. I was like, this is my life, like entrepreneurship, some form of. At the time, it was e-commerce. And the great thing about e-commerce, for anyone who doesn't know, so e-commerce is literally just selling goods or services via a website. That's it. So that's Amazon. It's transactions, monetary transactions online. And the good thing about that is it teaches you everything about online business because, as we've already discovered, you need to know how to do graphics. You have to know how to stock manage. You know to have to price. You know how to market. You have to learn how to deal with staff, customer service, potentially manufacturing issues if you're going direct to source.
Supply, yeah.
Everything is involved in e-commerce, and it's hard. So then I built my skill set off of that. So there was nothing I couldn't sell online. So then when I realized that, I was like, well, I can move into any industry online now, and I've got the requisite skill set to be able to do it. So I was like, no, this is me now, I'm done. So then I finished university, then I was like, well, I'm getting let down by suppliers here and I'm paying way too much. I'd be paying like £250,000 to one supplier for stock. I was like, well, they're just getting it from China anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm going. All right, so then I was like, I don't know anyone in China. So Shenzhen is the southeast of China. And I was like, okay, so booked my flights, told my girlfriend at the time, it's the same girlfriend actually. I was like, I'm off. So what do you mean you're off? I think everyone got used to me at this point. I was like, I'm building my business. I was like,
so this was the priority.
Yeah, this is the priority.
I
was like, we want to have a good life. I thought I was going to marry this girl, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
I was like, we're building this life. I need to be selfish right now for the benefit of us long term. And I was like, I'm building. So you're either with me or you're not. Like I treat you well and everything else, but I'm off. So booked my tickets, phoned up a load of people I knew, and somebody that knew someone in Shenzhen that was English that was actually working with food manufacturers in Australia. And he went to factories over there. Mm-hmm. So he was basically going to the factories in China, making sure they were good enough quality to send product out to Australia, Costco, Australia, and all this kind of stuff. So I met up with him. Incidentally, his Chinese name is called Spike. So he'd been in China for a long time. And I met up with him and he kind of like showed me a bit of the ropes, but I was on my own. I had to find an apartment. She got hotel to hotel to hotel to hotel. I was like, shit, can't get an apartment here because no one does a short-term lease in China. It's not really a thing. There's no Airbnb. That doesn't exist. It didn't then anyway. So I had to end up getting an estate agent and paid them a 12-month lease. And I was only going to be there for 3 months initially because I just had to do it. I was there at that point. And then got an apartment. It was in a big apartment block that had like a mall on the bottom, a shopping mall, and a gym there and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I had everything there. And then I realized that no one spoke English. Like I didn't think before I went. I just went, and no one spoke English, and everyone was rude. I got a lot of racism. I was the only white guy there. I'm walking around, and people spitting at me. They called me Guelo, which is white devil. And I've never experienced racism before, so I was like, this is odd. I'd go to a taxi queue, and I'd be at the front of the queue, and they'd just go to the Chinese person before me.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, this is not fun. So I got really homesick really quickly. Yeah. Then I basically was like, well, I can't get around. No one talks. I can't talk to anyone. So I locked myself in the apartment for 4 weeks and just learnt Mandarin.
You're kidding.
No. So I didn't learn it fluently, but I got it to a point where, so what I would do, right, I'd be in my apartment. It was really hard to find some stuff there. So I had YouTube, but there was another thing called like Rosetta Stone or the language software.
Yeah, it's how they found out about the Egyptian hieroglyphs. It's the only piece of evidence or translation on the world that existed. This small stone, the Rosetta Stone it's called. One stone is the only way we could cipher the Egyptian hieroglyphs. If we didn't have that, all Egyptian history would have been unknown to us.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's just mind-blowing. Anyways, it's just a side note. So
that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So then I'm sitting there learning. So then what I do was, because it's tonal language, 4 tones in Mandarin. You have an up tone, like you got E, and there's a down tone, R, and then there's a flat tone, E, and then Ia, which is up, down. So the way you pronounce things changes the meaning of what you're saying.
Shit, okay.
So for example, if you say Nali or Nali, like one's where, one's there, like it changes
the meaning
based on the tone. So, so I was like, so what I used to do is I'd learn something, and then I'd jump in the elevator, and I'd go down to the mall, and I'd try it on the checkout women.
It must have been fun, huh?
So, for example, like the first thing they'll answer you, they do here. So, and it's funny. The things that you lead. The first thing I learned is like I remember I got massive anxiety the first time because I got to the checkout desk and they would just ask me if I wanted a bag. So they say like "Niao dai zama," like, do you want a bag? And I was like, just remember sitting there going, English, She didn't even know what English meant. She was just like, "Nyao dai tama," like, she kept screaming at me. And then like, "Kama," which is like, "Do you have a card?" And I was like, "No, I didn't." I just left my shopping and left. Because I was like, it was like a really unpleasant experience. That's when I was like, right, I've just got to learn this stuff. And then, so I'd go down and like, just keep trying new words with the staff until I like, initially I'd say stuff and they were like, I have no idea what you're saying, buddy, like, get away, like, next. So then I was like, let me try that again, go back up, listen to it, come back down again. And then, got it. And then I think they got to know me in there. So then I was just testing stuff out. And it was like, it was a really funny experience where I just built a lot more confidence. And then like, you have to weigh all your food there. So this was so difficult because like I was eating a lot of chicken back then. I was training and bodybuilding, and like they have these mounds of chicken breasts, and then everything just weighed. So then you have to go to this really rude person. Typically they're rude, and then you have to ask them to weigh it. Ching da chen, like, please weigh this. But you learn all this stuff after. I'm surprised I even still remember this stuff. It's been a while. But like, you give them your chicken breast, they weigh it, they slap a label on it, then you can take it to the checkout desk. But to start with, I didn't even know that. I'd like put stuff in the bag, got to the checkout, and they're like, obviously telling me that it's not got a label on it. I'm like, I don't understand. I've got no one here. I didn't even know that that's because in the United Kingdom, it's in a packet, it's got a price on it. I pick it up and take it to the till. And like normally they just weigh it at the till and put the sticker on it. There's whole sections in the supermarket with it. So I just couldn't get by. Like little things like that I just took for granted, and not having someone there that could guide me, I was like on my own.
Yeah, wow.
And then I got confident enough to get taxis, and then got taxis to the manufacturing units, and then got to the manufacturing units and started discussing like stock and everything else. It was obviously quite broken English. And then I got a translator when it was like dealing with that. Put my first £250,000 order in while I was there for track lighting. It's like lighting. You see it in shops and stuff like that, where they just put they put the light into the track. It's like a big scale electrics, and they plug lights in along. And so I bought loads of that. You see it everywhere. Bought loads of that, and then I oversaw the order while I was there. And then by the time I got home, the order was already like shipped. I arrived back, and then it all landed there. We've got a big picture with all my staff and our big first shipment that came in from China. I was like, all right, we're off. Then I had relationships I then got Spike, actually employed him eventually to check my stock. So basically Chinese will like rip you off quite often. Like, Alibaba and stuff like that. It's good, but it's dangerous because what they do is they normally take a holding deposit of 30% to get your order manufactured. And then you pay 70% on completion. And then what they do is they give you a stock check. So let's say you've ordered 100,000 things. They'll open a few, apparently check 10% of the stock to make sure it's okay. But they'll put the top 10 boxes that are all good, and the rest of it's broken or the wrong thing or whatever else. And you might get, I've heard horror stories where people lost their entire savings bringing stuff in from China because someone didn't check. So I had my guy, like he used to get the bullet trains at all the different factories in Shenzhen and just check before it came. But I was like, they would take all the boxes off the top and go right to the bottom and start pulling stock out of there to make sure it was okay. Double check it all for me.
I see.
9 times out of 10, it'd have to go back in.
Really?
Manufactured, yeah.
So if you didn't have that guy, you would have been fucked.
That guy. So I used to give him 10% of the total order value just as an insurance policy.
But it's worth it.
It was so worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my little story with that. And then I basically started expanding in the UK and then built my e-commerce business up that way.
Okay, so this is now fast forwarding to like 25, 6 or what?
Yeah, so this time I was probably like 22, 23.
23?
Yeah.
23.
So then I then, off the back of doing that, I was running a marketing company as well at the same time. So obviously I learned, like I said, I learned how to sell online. I learned how to sell well. So then I started offering that to other services. I picked up clients like Harrods in the UK. People have probably heard of that, big manufacturing companies. And then basically they were paying me like a percentage of their revenue increase, or they'd pay me a retainer. And I built a whole team of people that would just go into a company and just help them build their sales up. So that'd be pay-per-click marketing. At this point, we had Facebook marketing, we had Instagram marketing, we had digital content creators.
So this is very early, right?
Yeah, we're still early to the doors with this. And then I basically put my team, basically all my team that I used to build my stuff out, I was like, well, I could do this for other companies and just be like, we'll go and just blow your business up. Yeah. When I say blow it up, I mean scale it, make it bigger, not actually blow the bloody thing up. But then we just send my whole team in and we'll just strategize and we would just do our thing and get it. And so this is where I said you can't teach entrepreneurship. I would walk in, I'd see all the solutions to the problems. I'd say, right, this needs like work here, this staff needs employing here, this needs to go here, this product needs changing, this pricing needs changing, this, that, and the other. For me, it was just natural. Yeah. And then I just put all the team in place, strategize, and they'd go and execute. Then I would client face and deal with the big clients, and go out for the dinners and do all the nice stuff, which I really enjoyed. And then I'd find new clientele by just networking and doing what you're doing with this podcast, right? The podcasts are great. If I'd had a podcast back then, I would have done that, right?
Yeah.
But they weren't even a thing really back then.
Oh yeah, probably.
And then so the marketing business that got really large, and that actually became my biggest revenue earner.
The marketing business.
Yeah, because the margin's 100% margin, right?
Yeah.
After the staff you're paying, it's just crazy money. You get someone paying you, and this is anyone out there that's like, especially young kids. If you learn how to sell for someone, so this is the thing. If I give anyone a strategy, so you probably have like young listeners. If you're 17, 18, 19, or even older, anyone can do this. But if you're coming out of school and you're driven and hungry, learn how to sell for someone. Whether it be social media marketing, it be digital marketing, pay-per-click, Google AdWords, whatever it might be. Do it for someone for free to start with till you get good at it. Get fucking good at it. So I'm not talking about doing this if you're not skilled, but you can get skilled. If anyone that puts 100 hours into something becomes better than 99% of the rest of the market. Do 100 hours. Yeah. That's really not a lot, right? 2 hours, right? Do 100 hours at it. Yeah. Prove concept, right? Then once you've got a couple of people who've done it for free and you've got some actual track record of it, start approaching other companies. Walk into the shop if you have to. Do whatever you need to. Speak to them and say, look, I can help you grow your business via this method, whether it be AdWords, digital marketing, social media management, whatever it might be. I'll work for you for 3 months, right? And after that point, if I make you X amount or you're happy with my services, this is what my retainer will be. But I'll show you that it works first. Put your money where your mouth is. This is where you have to be good. Lots of people try the technique, but they're actually shit, right? Do that, you'll be earning 6 figures a year, so that's over £100,000 a year, like that. I promise you, anyone can do it. Yeah. You just got to be good. That's the prerequisite. Be good. Like, don't be shit, and that's fine. Like that should be expected. If you're shit at something, you don't get paid for it. But everyone can get good. Just put some time and effort into it. But also, don't ask people straight up the bat for a retainer when you're not known.
Yeah. So you're nobody.
Even if you are someone, that's still a guarantee. Yeah. Like we call these conditional guarantees, which we make all the time. I'll say like, I'll do this. If it doesn't work, won't charge you. Because I get good, I'm good at what I do. Yeah. And that's the easiest way for someone now to make money because it doesn't require an office. It doesn't require any extra skills outside of that. And I teach people to do this. I mentor people in doing this. And I've got, like I said, I've got a guy that works for me now for Limitless Mentoring. He's 20, he just bought himself a brand new Porsche. He's the youngest guy in the Porsche dealership ever to buy that Porsche, right? He's 20. Crazy. Because he learned modern wealth creation techniques. And this is what I said with regards to the school system and everything else. The system is not built for you to win. The system is built for the people at the top of the system to win. And I realized that if you want to win in life, you've got to get out of the system. I can tell just being in Bulgaria, there's a lot of people that aren't in the system and they're driving around in very fucking nice cars. Now, I don't know what they do. Like I said, I can't comment on what they do, but I can guarantee they're not following the system.
Oh, for sure.
Now, I'm not saying you have to break the law. You don't need to. This is the great thing about what I do and what I teach people to do is that you can make a shitload of money by following all the rules. You just got to learn how to play the rules like the people at the top don't want you to know. Yeah. And it's a crazy world out there.
Small holes that are actually in the entire system. Mm-hmm. Everything is legal. But you just need to know where to look and where to go.
And also, the people at the top want a few people to break through. It gives hope. They just don't want everyone breaking through.
Oh, yeah, actually.
If you don't have enough carrot and it's too suppressive, people give up. Yeah. So if you look at like China, you look at Russia back in like the communist days, Bulgaria, like if it's too hard on people, they fight. But if there's enough hope there and enough people scream, they got to have a few people winning the lottery. They got to have a few. So they want a few people to scrape through. They don't want as many people that we can get through, but there has to be a certain. But most people don't want to look. They're too scared to look outside of the system because the system, they think, looks after them, so it keeps them secure. It doesn't.
How do you categorize the system? What do you mean by the system?
The system is the constructs in which people believe things should be and the way that they should live. Like I said to you before, they believe they should go to school, they should be an upstanding citizen, which I do believe that people should be, and they should respect the fuck out of everyone, and you should treat other people how you should want to be treated. 100%. I believe in all those things. I'm not religious, but I do believe in a lot of the religious beliefs. Yeah. And I believe that if we adopt a lot of those, the world would be a better place. I believe in all those things. And I believe that there's a set of rules out there that the top play at, that they're not letting other people privy to. We all have access. We don't always have access to those rules. And you asked me before why Bulgaria and potentially Romania is good, because the rules are more playable to people that are lower down the chain than versus someone like the UK. You have to be an elite person in the UK to get access to some of the levels, because I talk about life like a game. It's all game.
It is a game.
Right? Now, some of the levels are locked until a certain level. and some people just aren't born high enough or won't ever understand the rules enough to be able to jump. Whereas in Bulgaria and Romania and some other Eastern European places and some other places in the world, those rules are a little bit more available because there's less red tape. There's less control throughout the game, so you can actually get further ahead and actually have a lot more fun playing the game. Now, the system is always built, because there needs to be control and order, which I do believe, because humans on their own run riot. There's chaos, right? And they have built a system whereby it fuels itself. So we call it the Matrix. If you watch the film The Matrix, it's the same system, right? The same ideology where people in it are giving to the system. They work every day. They're building wealth for the economy. They take a little bit of it and they pay their taxes. They build goods and services that everyone benefits from. And the idea is that the world becomes a better place and humans get a better standard of living. But what's happening is the system seems to be becoming more controlling. The system seems to be nailing down on people a lot more, so that there is now less freedom that people appear to have. It's only perception. If you perceive yourself to be free, then you are free. But there seems to be more control and there's less movement. The digital side of things now seems to be getting tightened. Like this
Quite a lot.
So that's the system, because the system is built to protect itself and protect the people at the top. And they want people conforming in a patternistic behavior because it's predictable. Because with predictability gives control. If you know how people are going to react to a certain situation, like in the UK it was particularly bad. You tell people to lock themselves in their houses for 3 months and they all do it. That was a good test bed for them. Everyone did it. Okay, we've got a very controllable state.
Actually, it happened here as well.
Yes, I know. It was seriously bad. I've chatted to people here. It wasn't as bad here as it was there. Yeah. And people listened, and then they actually enforced it themselves on other people.
Yeah.
So then people were enforcing the ideologies of the system, which was fucking brilliant. It was genius.
Yeah.
They didn't have to police it. We had no police out on the streets. We didn't need it because everyone would leave and everyone would panic. It's like, get back in your fucking house. You're going to kill everyone. Like, it was mental. So I was there like, that's the system. The system is always out to benefit itself first and foremost, and then just keep everyone in line. And it's not as bad as everyone makes out. Like, we have a better standard of living, especially in Europe and in Europe and in the West.
Yeah.
Versus some of the places in Africa and like the Middle East. We're fucking blessed, and the system has been good. I'm not saying it's not, and I'm not one of these doom and gloom kind of guys. That's why I call about the game. It's all a game. I just want people to learn how to play it better and have more fun playing it. That's my thing. I like that you can still have fun. It's still, the system's good if you know how to play the system. And I'm not saying you have to break any of the rules. You just have to know how to play it. That's the awesome thing about it. That's the system, and then like it will just fuel itself and just keep growing, basically. Hope that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Okay. Especially, I think now with the cancel culture that it is, it's just insane. Like you mentioned earlier about, maybe when you started, social media was completely free. I mean, there was no censorship. There was nothing like that. Even when I was a kid and I was using social media, there was nothing like that at all. Now it seems like there are some patterns you can recognize. If you say certain things, I mean, the freedom of speech is not that freedom.
So, we talked about ability to play this is a really good example, actually. We talked at like certain levels you can play the game differently. Elon Musk just bought the fucking platform. Right? So when you get to certain levels, it's like, well, I want freedom of speech, I'll just buy Twitter, right, and rename the bloody thing.
Yeah, it's like a G move.
So, it's a G move. So basically at that level, he couldn't play that. Like, we couldn't do that. Like, we have to abide by the rules so he gets to play at different levels, but he's not playing within the system.
Isn't he? Like,
he's playing. He's playing in the system at levels that we can't touch. So what I'm saying, so he has access to stuff
I see what you mean.
Which in the West you just couldn't get access to, which is why it was a really good example of like, yeah, he's still playing by the rules, but he's playing rules that we can't play at the moment. So you've got to get to a certain level, but to get to those levels it can be done, but you have to understand the levels below it, and then you have to earn your stripes. You have to earn. You can't bypass. So it's like
just jump.
You can't just jump. Like, every now and then you can, but that's normally someone giving you a hand up. If you were friends with Elon Musk and he decided to let you in his circle for whatever reason, like you're his son or whatever, you just instantly jump up. Yeah. That's not realistic. That doesn't happen. Yeah. So everyone has to earn their way up. I'm earning my way up. And I know that to have impact on this planet, because I really want to do a lot of good on the planet. Like, my big goals are firstly to reform the education space through mentorship and actual modern learning methods, from learning from people that actually have been there and done it. That's my real thing. Like, not people in a classroom, learning stuff that actually works, which is the rules of the game. actually how to play the game and empower people to play their own game and build their own empires and live how they want to live, but still bettering other people. I always go back to that. Like, I don't want to help people skirt the system so that they actually end up sucking from the system. If everyone pursued their own best interests, this is Adam Smith, he's the godfather of economics. Everyone pursuing their own best interests benefits society as the whole the most. And what that means is, like, if everyone starts to build an amazing good or service, you're building a great podcast, you're building a great product or service, because you want to, let's say you want to earn a load of money, which I'm sure you do, and you want this thing to be super successful, which I'm sure it will be. But when you do that, you give people a voice. You build value and good and services into the economy, which is actually helping everyone else.
Yeah.
So by you trying to become wealthy, by building a good service, as you said at the beginning, this ties in really nicely, people will buy things that are good for them, or that solves a problem. So if you're really good at solving people's problems, you get paid a lot of money. For example, if you solved cancer tomorrow, you'd be a trillionaire. But how much good you would have done.
Yeah.
There's a byproduct of you pursuing your best interests. And what I want to do is help people build better goods and services in a marketplace using modern methods outside of the controlling system that they don't want you to be able to do, and actually benefit everyone as a whole, build a better life for you and your family and those around you, give jobs and support to people that don't necessarily want to own a business but want to be in an organization that's more forward-thinking and innovative, and give the infrastructure to enable other people to do that after I'm gone. So I want to build the framework for that. And then as the base that then provides and the financial security and wealth that brings, I then want to reform the healthcare system. I've got a load of leading thinking doctors at the moment. So in my mentorship, we have something called Peak Physical Performance.
Yeah.
We have these crazy doctors. One's called Ed. One of my best friends. He's like a genius, but he's like modern. He's a modern medicine guy, so he's not like tree hugging and all this stuff. He still uses pharmaceuticals, but he's all about optimization and getting like men like you and I running at 100%, not just what is in range. It's like, no, I want my testosterone to be at the top level of normal.
Of course.
I want to be a Formula One race car running around the racetrack, not a Nissan poodling up the hill, right? That's not okay. Yeah, it still runs though, but no, I want to be a fucking animal. I'm a race car. And we're building out this service to basically high-performing individuals, high-net-wealth individuals that need to be at 100% all the time, like me, running multiple businesses, families, hundreds of staff, multi-million-pound like empires, and all this the stress that comes with that. I still need to turn up and perform. I need to be able to get on a podcast like this in Bulgaria and perform. Leave here and then deal with all the shit that's going to be on my phone when I leave this room, and like all the problems that there'll be mountains, right? And still turn up and do what I need to do, and then also be a great dad and a great husband.
And feel happy.
And enjoy it, right?
Yeah,
So it's all fun and well and good being in the game, but I want to enjoy the game. So that's going to build the framework to then build a lesser service where we offer this out to everyone. I want to be able to have an affordable way that people can optimize their health and prevent illness, not maintain illness or like help it once you become ill, because that's what the pharmaceutical companies want. Is a whole different thing. They want you ill and to stay alive, suffering for as long as possible, so you pay for as much pharmaceutical health related stuff as possible to make them trillionaires. Fuck that. I want to create an overrun of that with my team. But we start with the top, so we build the model, we build the Formula One race car, and then when we build the engine, we can then build out the Kias and give the accessibility to that worldwide. So that's my big picture. Before I die, that's going to happen.
I see. It's a guy.
So small goals, right?
Yeah. You just
solve education and healthcare all at the same time. Like, I'm not arrogant. I just know I can do it.
Yeah. There's just, I love it. Honestly, I love it. It's just so nice. Gary Brecka. I don't know if you know who Gary Brecka is.
Yes.
I love this guy. He uses, I assume, similar stuff that you're talking about. He's not.
Yeah.
He doesn't disregard science. Andrew Huberman as well. Like, he's a hardcore PhD guy. I know. But they try and find ways to keep you better without even getting worse. I mean, without even getting ill, is what I mean. So the way you live your life, the way you wake up, how you sleep, what you eat, are like the main things related to why you get ill.
Well, you have to remember, like, everything comes down to incentives. So the framework I use for my life is like, when I'm judging someone on whether or not I trust them or why things are the way they are, there's always an incentive structure, and it always normally comes down to money. So I follow the money. What someone wants is normally attached to how much money they're going to earn out of that thing. Or like someone's decision or things that are being put into place are normally attached to. So for example, what's the incentive for a pharmaceutical company? Is to give out drugs to make more money. They don't give out drugs to healthy people. So what is their incentive? These are the most powerful organizations on the planet.
Yeah.
If their sole purpose is to make money from providing ill people with drugs, just think about what they might be encouraging. They don't want people healthy. They don't want to cure the fucking illness. They want it to prolong.
So they make more money.
That's just the incentives, right? I'm not making like factual claims here. Just think about the money. These are the biggest, wealthiest, most powerful organizations on the planet. If they cured everyone, they wouldn't have a business. Just think about that for a second. Think about arms dealers. If there was peace, there would be no money to be made. They're some of the biggest earning, and the government's revolved. I'm not going down that rabbit hole, but think about it. Follow the money. And then you can strip that right back. These are big corporations, but then just people you deal with on a day-to-day basis. Look at their incentive structures based on what they have to gain financially, and then figure out what they might actually be doing it for. Not, and that's the framework I always apply it with. It's like I'll always initially judge someone's incentive structure based on what I think they're due to earn and why, and then I'll say, right, okay, they're not, their true intention is actually this, not this.
Wow. You mentioned earlier about your wife, and I know she's a doctor.
She is.
And I think you have a business together. You work together on one of the businesses.
Yeah. So my wife is a very entrepreneurial woman. I've tried dating women that are just absolutely stunning, models, influencers, but if they're brain dead,
Won't work.
not for me. I need to be intellectually stimulated. For me, I really get off on like a woman that's very powerful, very intellectual, but also one that then I can, butt heads with and have a good discussion with, and come home and discuss some of my problems, and them not just say what they did for their nails or hair that day. Now, I'm not saying that my wife is absolutely stunning. She's a beautiful woman. Like, I'm not saying that beautiful women can't be like that. It's just very hard to find one. I found one. I found a woman that's intellectual, entrepreneurial, driven, and also is beautiful. So comes from a great family, good core values. Like, that for me is great. So, but with someone like that, she needs to be stimulated too. And she works for the NHS in the UK, which is a joke. I won't go into details, but she gets paid fuck all for working in the healthcare system there. So she always had businesses before me. She had an events company. She had a shop company in England, in a place called Liverpool. And when I met her, obviously I came in the picture. She didn't need to work.
Yeah.
And I initially liked the idea of like a traditional family where it's man earns the money, woman stays at home, looks after the kids. And I realized very quickly with her, we were going to end up having a divorce because she would have been miserable. So what I find with women like that, I've picked a woman that's extremely driven and needs her own independence, is what I realized. So rather than just me try to be the big man and say, well, look, I'm going to fucking do everything for you because it's like makes me feel better and rubs my ego. What we can do together is build an aesthetics clinic, because she loves aesthetics and wanted to build one out. And I said, look, I'll build the marketing for you. I'll get customers through the door. And then the rest is up for you to run and sort out. And I'm not going to get involved unless you want me to. We built that. It's now one of the most successful aesthetic clinics in the southeast of England. She's crushing it. She now doesn't need to rely on me fully as someone that to just, one, financially fall back on, and two, need me around all the time because she's got her own shit to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So I'm not the thing that's like, okay, I've got nothing going on today. I'm just going to put all of my problems on Elliot. Like, she's got an outlet for that in her work. Now, it's super important, I think, for a woman like that to have her own independence, because what people and men don't realize, especially very wealthy men, is that when a woman feels, especially when she's got kids, that she doesn't have her own financial independence, they worry, because they know that you pull all the strings and they may love you and trust you, but they know that anything could happen. And these things happen all the time. They sit on TV, and men don't do men any favors when they fucking get caught with mistresses and this, that, and the other. And fucking a woman at home sees her husband, she's like, that could happen to me. And I've got nothing to fall back on because this guy controls all the money. And if like you're like me and you've got money all over the place, they wouldn't be able to get hold of it. I would never do that to my wife. I'd never leave her high and dry. I'd always give her whatever. But she never had. If she didn't have that independence, there'd be worry there. And when there's worry and there's anxiety, you don't have peace at home. There's always some underlying.
You will
amount,
feel it.
Right? They'll feel it. There'll always be something, and that can
And you will
splinter,
feel it.
and I will feel it, and it could get bigger and bigger. Especially if you're trying to build an empire, that's not good. So she has her own independence now. If I died or left, she'll be wealthy, like, not just from me, but from herself. And she has a way of making more money going forward. We built that for her, and I was very conscious of making sure she had that. Now, when she's at home, Yes, I earn more than her, and I think that's important. There's a very controversial statement. I do believe that a dynamic with a man and a woman, especially an alpha male like me, I would feel emasculated if my wife earned more than me.
I agree.
Period. Right?
Yeah.
So for me, I had to feel like I earned more, but she still had the ability, because she wanted to, I'm not saying they should, earn her own money, be financially stable. Should I not be in the picture, she could look after the kids and look after herself and still have the same lifestyle that she's got now. And we have the best relationship. Fuck you. I like challenge anyone to have a better, like, compare the relationship to me. I have built this and it works for me. Now everyone's different, and everyone, like I said, I specified there that she's a very driven, hungry woman and wanted that. I'm a very alpha male and I've always wanted to be the provider. So I would never want to be the person being reliant on a woman, just because it would make me feel like shit personally. Now these things are what work in our dynamic, and everyone's dynamic is different. The same with every business and human interaction has to be built on the people themselves to make it work. And I'm good at figuring that out, because it's what I do. And I figured out what I wanted, because as I believe I can build my life what I want to build in the way I want to build it. And that's what I did with my relationship. And I think a big proponent to me being successful in business is having a solid home life. And I knew that that was one of the most fundamental things to get right, to make sure that I can hit those goals of reforming the education system and the healthcare system. I need a decent home life. I can't come back to a shitstorm.
It won't work. It will distract you all the time. And actually, this is one of the things I wanted to ask you, because, yeah, she's business driven. Mm-hmm. So she's an entrepreneurial mindset like you. Mm-hmm. But you have kids. Mm-hmm. And as we know, kids are priority. So how does it work combining you both working all the time and taking care of the kids? Because just one note, I want to say just one thing, because we discussed earlier about the woke culture, especially in England.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you have to have this, you have to check your kids all the time, what they learn in school. Mm-hmm. This is like super important, because, I mean, there are boundaries which I'm sure your family values wouldn't want to cross. So they need to be respected. So I think this takes a lot of time. So how do you...
that was a lot of layers to that question. So yeah. To start with, I'll tell you a little story. It got to a point maybe 2 years ago where my wife and I work a lot. And obviously we had our first son then. Mm-hmm. And we used to share the house duties, in that, like, we would take it in turns to do the sheets or the washing or whatever, because we're both working. So it wasn't like, because I said, look, we're both bringing money home, we're both working the same amount of hours. It's not fair to, even though I'm earning more, it doesn't work that way. I'm like, if we're both working as hard at work, she's working at a hospital and running her own business. I was like, well, look, I'll share some. She did more than me at home, but we'd share some responsibilities, like the bed sheets, for example. We would both we both hated bed sheets. So some stuff so I preferred washing clothes, because I was quite funny about that. And she would be happy to clean the house, like Hoover and stuff like that. So we had like split responsibilities, but the bed sheets we'd always do together, because we both hated taking them off and hated putting them back on. Like, people that probably understand, men definitely understand this. I take 10 hours to get a fucking duvet and a duvet sheet. I don't know how I'm so bad at it. Right? I can't get the corners right. Anyway, so we used to do it together, and it got to the third time where we'd basically strip them off in the morning, we'd put them on the wash during the day, when we'd put a replacement on in the evening. And then, like, this was the third time this happened. We're sitting downstairs and went, babe, we had a really long day at work. I think it was probably about 9:30 at night. I'd just finished. She'd just finished. Sit down on the sofa, put something on Netflix to just try and calm down for a second. I was like, babe, hold on. Did you put the sheets on the bed? No. Fuck. So we'd like, it's like, get up to bed. And I'm like, do you want to put them on now? I was like, no, I'm so tired. Then we get into bed, and they're like all scratchy sheet, like, because we've got no sheets on the bed. I'm like, babe. She's like, yeah. I said, we've been working our arse off. We're earning a shitload of money, and we're sleeping in a bed that doesn't have fucking sheets on it. I was like, we're getting a fucking maid tomorrow. So I was like, that's it, I'm done. She was like, I agree. So the next day, like, we're looking. So I basically approached it like a business, where I'm like, okay, if there's things that everything's a problem that needs to solve. It's an opportunity for improvement. I see everything as an opportunity for improvement, not a problem. Everything's solvable. So I was like, okay, we both is working. The house is the house chores are the one thing we argue about. What do? We get a nanny. We get a maid. So I hired someone to handle all the domestic care, and then also someone that could help with a bit of child care. So going on to your other point, I'm very careful what my kids are exposed to. So I wanted to pick a nanny that has traditional values as well. So we've got a Brazilian nanny. She's great, traditional values, also speaks to our kids in Portuguese. Our kids speak Portuguese, Farsi, and English. Like, I speak Farsi and English because my wife's Iranian. They now speak Portuguese. I have no idea what they're saying when they're playing around her. But we used her, we're very careful, because I didn't want her core values to be the thing that overrode
Overall,
the kids.
yeah, I see.
So we use her, and I say use in the nice way possible. We pay her, and
Of course.
to what we class as child admin. So anyone that's got childcare, this is why we approach it. I'm not saying anyone else should approach it this way, but because I didn't want her to be too influential on our kids, because not that she's bad, it's just I want my kids to have my values. That's just me. And I know, and I'm like what I think and what I want my kids to be. So she does all the things like packing their bags, sorting their clothes out, washing their clothes, sorting their food, doing all the stuff, all the chores that we don't enjoy, and then we just get to spend time with the kids. I drop them off at school and nursery because I think that's important. My wife does the same. So we're there to drop them off, pick them up. We're there all the sports days and events. We just don't do all this shit. So when we go back through the door, the bags go aside and we get to play with the kids before they go to bed. We don't have to put all this stuff away. We don't have to. My nanny does that. So she does all the admin. We get all the good time spent with the kids. And what happens is then as well, because we're not leaving the house or coming back in the house super stressed because there's fucking shit everywhere, the bags all over the place, we're trying to like get everything together, and like the kids lost one shoe and you're like trying to leave the door and the kids are around a really stressful environment. When we leave the door, all the bags are by the front door, all the kids have got their clothes on, we just walk out and it's a nice environment and the kids are happy for it. I'm happier for it. I start my day well. And because I'm so focused on optimality and me be performing on a day-to-day basis at the highest level I possibly can, because some of the decisions I'm making are multi-million-pound decisions. Me having a stressful morning because my kids' bags weren't packed can throw off the whole day. Yeah. So all these little things I now think about are super important to set your day off right. So me having that nanny at home is like one of the best investments I've ever made. My wife and I are happy. We don't argue about those things. We don't have to, it's your job, it's my job. We don't have to have that argument. I just took the argument out of the picture. That's her job. So then me and my wife don't even have that discussion anymore. So even if that's the thing in your family, we just removed it. Because like I said, it's a problem that I just solved. So that was one thing. And another thing, to anyone out there that's actually worried about their kids, I've spent a long time mulling this over about like, okay, how can we influence our kids? How can we make sure they don't absorb all this woke culture? Especially if you're in the UK, it's a fucking shit show. There's so much stuff. I've got like gender neutral cereal box characters and like, it's mad, right? It's just nuts.
That's madness.
It's nuts, okay? It's got to the point where I think it's actually going to go the other way because people are now going, what the fuck? Like people are starting to go, this is ridiculous. They pushed it way too hard. Anyway, so you sit there and think, fuck, what am I doing about my kids? They're sponges. They believe everything they get told, right? They literally, if I told my kid he was a bird, he'd believe he was a bird, right? He's like, they're smart kids. They're 3 and 2.
Oh, 3 and 2. Oh,
wow. They tell him anything. Like he thinks he's Spider-Man. Like he puts his Spider-Man outfit on. I'm like, where's Hugo? He's like, I'm here. Then you know what I mean? That kid just like he is what his environment's telling him he is. So you sit there and go, fuck, I was a parent. How am I going to deal with this? Like I'm worried. And I had these conversations with my wife. We were petrified. Like, do we go to Iran? Do we move permanently to Bulgaria, where it's a little bit more traditional? We don't have to worry about those things at the moment. I'm like, but do we keep running? Like, it's going to catch up with us eventually. What about my grandkids? Like, what's the solution, the long-term solution to this? And the one thing I keep coming back to is, as a parent, your sole responsibility is to make your kid feel secure. Insecurities breed all of the issues that you see in people. When someone is not confident in themselves, if they're not confident in who they are as a person, they start to question who they are as a person. If they don't feel loved, they don't feel safe, they then start to question, and these influences outside, where they're seeking a culture that maybe embrace them a little bit more than they do at home, can start to creep in. I want to build a wall so fucking high and secure that when my kids are there, they know they're in the right place because it feels right. And that's you as a responsibility as a parent to fucking nail.
I see.
It's your responsibility.
Yeah.
And I realized that if my kid feels loved at home, feels secure, doesn't have questions like, doesn't feel insecure about their weight, the way they look, they can go on social media, they can go to school, they can hear some ridiculous teacher sprouting off some information about the fact that there's 9 million genders and go, Daddy, I was at school today and some idiot was telling me that there was 900. What are they on about? I don't know, son. Like, and we can have that discussion because they come home. But if then they go to school and they're like, I don't feel quite right because there's something off at home, they might just start to listen. A crack might start to appear.
I see what you mean.
And as a parent, all I can do is make my kids feel secure, feel love, explain and show them a good solid foundation. So this is the other thing. People have broken families and wonder why their kids end up broken. Sort your own shit out first. That's why I've made such a conscious effort, and it hasn't been easy. I say this like I've done this with ease. Fuck me, I've gone through bad relationships. I've gone through enough bad relationships to realize what was a good one. I've tried and tested multiple strategies for finding women. I even had tick lists for finding my wife. Like, it was a deep, like, I went
analysis
of my wife to make sure I got the right one. I played the whole thing like a chess game, and you can call me fucking heartless, emotionless. I have a better life than most people. I'll say that now, because of the way I approached it, and I'm proud of the way I did it, and I've got no regrets. And the way I approached it, for me, has worked. So for me, at least, I can say, well, it's been fantastic. And you can say, oh, yeah, you took the emotion out of it, this, that, and the other. Fuck, I care. I care about the result. Same with the business. If I go into a business, I don't care how good the marketing looks. I care what they're doing to the bank balance. The end result is all I care about. So whatever means I have to get there, if my kids turn out great, they're happy, they feel loved. My wife is happy. She's not sleeping around. I'm secure. I'm able to go out and operate, and I know that I've got a great family that supports me, and my kids want to be around me, and they like want to call me dad and are inspired and proud by me, is all I fucking want. So if I can get that, and the way I've done it got me there, so fuck, I'm not going to apologize to anyone. And I'm not going to apologize to these woke cultures that don't agree with anything that I'm saying, because frankly, I think that I'm doing it better than you.
Oh, most
proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, there's definitely there's a pattern you can notice even if in the wokeism, let's say, like people that support that ideology are like 99% are not quite successful, not quite good looking. I mean, you see a pattern there that you just.
So it's a security thing, right? I wonder how many of them are on antidepressants or have had some sort of mental illness. I don't know the stats. I'm just putting it out there. Maybe look into it.
Yeah.
But I would guess that these people aren't necessarily secure.
And happy.
And happy. Sure. And where that's originated from, I would say, and I'm not a scientist, and I don't know the stats, so I'm not stating this like it's fact.
Yeah.
I'm basing it purely on observation. It's normally some form of issue with the home life starting out. So as a parent, going back to the original statement, what do you do with your kids? Get a fucking decent foundation set up. If you want your kids to be secure, get a decent family unit, do the things that you know that work for you. And if you had a great upbringing, try and mimic that or see other people and how they're doing it. It all starts with the family. And it starts as a kid. It starts very young. And then I don't think you have to worry so much about the influencers out there because they're not influential if they think it's ridiculous and they're happy. They're not looking for change.
Yeah.
If you come home and you love what you've got, why would you change it? If you got into your car and you're like, I just fucking love this car, why would you look for another one? You wouldn't, because you're happy with it. You're secure with it. It's the best thing. Same with your wife. That's why men and women cheat, because they're not fucking happy at home. Not always. There is obviously some promiscuous people that are fucking shitbags out there. I don't believe in any of that either. Like men that do that and women do that to each other. It's not my thing. If I get into business with someone, or going to get into business with someone, I'm out with them, and this happens all the fucking time. I go on a night out, I know the guy's married, and you'll take some woman home and something out, business is done. If you treat your wife like that, I'm definitely not getting into business with you. Fuck no. Like, look after your woman, get that right. And also, that aside, outside of your morals, you're going to have a fucking shitstorm when your wife finds out, which is going to affect your business. So I'm getting into business with you. I do not want a rocky foundation. I get into business with people that have solid foundations. So whenever I meet someone now and I'm doing a business deal, I will know about their family. I want to see what they're like around other women. Yeah, you can look, but you don't fucking entertain it.
Yeah.
Like all men look. If there's a fucking beautiful woman, it's a beautiful. I tell my wife, she's hot. She's like, shut up. And I'm like, but that's fine. But
yeah, of course.
I'm not getting into business with someone that acts that way because, like I said, if you treat the most important person to you on the planet as a man, that's your wife. To everything.
Yeah.
If you treat your wife like that, how the fuck are you going to treat me?
Imagine.
And your customers? No.
Oh, I completely
Important lesson
agree.
for any entrepreneur. Yeah. You stay away from that. And if you are that guy, sort yourself out.
The loyalty towards your family will transpose to the loyalty in your business. So if you work with someone who's not loyal to his wife, he won't be loyal to you.
I look at people that I want to get into business with predominantly from the way they act outside of business.
Yeah.
So for me, you and I are into the gym. You know what it fucking takes to get under like a hack squat or a squat bar week after week and just fucking bust your guts, right? You got to have something up here where you're willing to put in the work. So for me, people that are in shape and go to the gym religiously and push hard is a real good indicator to me straight off the bat. They've got what it takes to sacrifice.
Yeah.
So that's a real big thing. Is if I know someone's in the gym, straight away I'm like, okay, I know what they've got. They've got what it takes to push through hard times. So that's one element I look for in someone.
One tick.
So that's a great premise. And then how they treat their family, how they treat the most important people to them in their life. If you can see that and you can engineer an environment, so that's why I'm like, oh, should we go out to dinner with your wife? With a businessman if I'm thinking about it, so I see how he acts and interacts, and I see how his wife interacts, and then I'll try to speak to his wife one-on-one, not for any other reason other than to see how their relationship is, and I'll try and get information out of that person, because that's going to be the best indicator. And then I'll let my wife speak to her wife, and she'll be, because she's on my side, we're like a fucking team.
Yeah.
She knows the drill. She'll be getting information out of her to find out what he's like for me. We have this all planned out. Like, she and I, we're a unit. So if I have someone come into my house that I need to impress, she will go out of her way to impress that guy so it looks good on me, so that the business deal is more likely to get done, because she knows it's for the good of the household, and vice versa. If she's meeting up with a doctor or someone that's like, I go out to dinners that I don't necessarily want to go out to and mingle with people to make, and I will sit there and I will blow smoke up her ass all night, because before I wouldn't have had, I had too much of an ego to do that. But I will take losses. Even if I did something in her business or in her life that I know I did, I will state that she did it just to make her have the win, so she looked good in front of the person that she needs to impress, because we all benefit.
Yeah.
It's a fucking team effort. Stop being an arsehole going out on your own. It's the same way, dude, you're trying to run your business. If you treat your staff like that, this is the thing. So I build these interactions and these ideas of people based on the way they act outside of business. Because you see them in business, it's not a true representation of who they are as a person. And I invest in people, not businesses.
Of course. Because long-term people is everything.
With the right team, you can withstand any downfall. With the right team, it doesn't matter how bad your product is, because the right team will adjust it to become the right one. And as we spoke about in the car before the podcast, like, loyalty is huge. So if you have a loyal team that is the right team, you'll always win.
Yeah.
And you'll have a great time together playing the game. Like, it's all well and good playing a game on your own, but it's so much more fun when there's a few lads together doing it as a team.
Oh, definitely. I mean, life is definitely not as fun and as entertaining if you're alone. So that's for sure. And you won't be happy. So you need people around you.
Like you got the team here. I see the two guys that they were waiting around for us while we went the wrong way to get to the podcast today. Right? But it's all jokes, like, that you're having fun. Like, you've got some guy from England coming in. Is hopefully it's a good time, you know? And like, you can have this. The whole thing really is like, we've got one shot on the planet, and this is deep. I think you've truly won if you've left the world in net benefit, but not at the sacrifice of you not having any happiness. So you should live this life and be happy. If you're not being happy, and that happy doesn't necessarily mean that you're always in a state of elation. Happiness sometimes is pain, is sacrifice, is suffering. But if the whole journey was one you could look back on and say, yeah, I was happy, led a happy life, you've won. And you helped as many people as you could on the way. And you built a great family, and you did good things, and you're a good person. You've nailed it. If you can't enjoy the bloody thing, what's the point?
Yeah, definitely. That's why when you make money, you still have to enjoy it. I mean,
there's a lot of miserable rich people.
Yeah, people go too much into...
Because a lot of them, like I said, didn't understand the team side of things either. No one wants to be at the table feasting with no one to fucking talk to, no one at the table. I always say this to my team. I said, look, I'm going to fucking feast, but you're going to feast on that table with me. We're all going to sit there together. When we're 70, we're going to be at a big banquet hall, huge table, and we're all going to sit there reminiscing on the war battles that we had, and the fun we built, and the things we built, and the empires we fucking destroyed and built, and all the times in between. The shit times, the good times, a whole lot. And we're going to sit there and we're going to have a good lean whiskey, enjoy the food, the spoils of our adventures, and do it as a team. I don't want to be sitting in that banquet hall at my own at the end of that long big table with a shitload of food, some a cold whiskey with no one to talk to, sitting there wishing I'd fucking done it with someone else.
That's a loss.
That's be a big regret for me. That'd be, you've lost life.
Yeah.
Don't give a fuck. There's a lot of happy people that have nothing.
Yeah.
That's quite deep.
Quite deep. But it's actually very true. I agree with you completely on this. Something else we can touch on. We discussed social media earlier and AI. I mean, I'm really interesting how AI. How do you use it a lot in your businesses?
Yes.
Do you integrate it?
Artificial intelligence is that's nuts. You don't want to talk about like crazy things. Artificial intelligence is next level. So artificial intelligence will put a lot of people out of business. But
there's a but.
But for the time being, we're in a period right now where we don't have general artificial intelligence. Have you seen Iron Man? Yeah. Yeah, and you see Jarvis on there. So for people that don't know, so like general artificial intelligence, when that happens, the world's gonna be a crazy place. You'll probably be able to think what you want to do. Like, for example, like when Neuralink gets set up with Elon Msk and everything. But for now, you'll be able to just say Jarvis or like AI at home, create me a marketing campaign from a podcast studio. It's in Bulgaria, this, that, and the other. You can find all my information out on my social media and website at these places. And just I want to scale up my business and create a marketing campaign. It'll create the emails, it'll create the newsletter, it'll create the pay-per-click, the whole fucking lot. Do it all for you. You just have to say it. We're not quite there yet.
I struggle with this. I'll tell you why. Because
Okay.
when we talk about this sort of general intelligence, which is the next step, it's described as something that has the ability, in a way, to think. Let's say. I am not entirely sure that we're even close to that point to understanding what thinking means, because in a neurobiological perspective, we don't know how the brain works. We have absolutely no idea. So why you think, we have no idea why you think. The reason, what happens in your brain in order to think. To make the general intelligence think, we need to understand it, then build it and implement it. So
the issue is the problem we're going to run into. So this is the whole deep side of the dark side of AI. So I watched a few people that I can't remember the names, but very big scientists on this. And the problem is with artificial intelligence is we don't know how it works. It pumps out an answer based on basically when we wrote the code, we understood it. And the code's evolved so much now, we don't actually know the decision-making principles in which it works. So we don't know how it thinks. So this is the scary part.
But does it think is the question?
We don't know. So we don't know how the answers that are coming out are being created now. So because of that, we assume that it's thinking. So in the definition of thinking, it'd be like, we didn't pre-orchestrate the output. The outputs come from something within it that's not us. That's the way they're classing it as thinking.
Yeah.
The problem is we can't see that we don't understand how it works. So the guy gave an analogy and he said, we have to think of artificial intelligence of like this thing that you plug in stuff and stuff comes out, but we don't know how the stuff is getting created or being thought about in the middle, like the engine.
So so it has a database, we know.
Yeah, it has
gets the information
gets the
from there.
information, we put inputs, and then it pumps out an answer, but we now don't know how that works.
Really?
Yeah, there's a bit in between where we don't know. So that's the artificial intelligence part. So he said it's the same way, like if we sent an air conditioner back, like an air conditioning unit back 300 years, and you send it to the best scientists, or maybe 200 years, you send it to the best scientists, they'd be able to break it apart, and they'd see all the core components, but they still won't understand that there's a mechanism in it that rapidly cools hot air and then pumps it out cold. So it's the contraction of hot air that then creates cold air. Apparently that's how air
thermodynamics is not there yet.
Right?
Science.
So they look at it, but they don't understand the science of thermodynamics.
Yeah.
They see the parts. So with artificial intelligence, we see all the code and we see it all, but we don't understand how it pumps out the cold air.
Wow. Actually,
because we're 200 years behind. And that's what artificial intelligence is now, and that poses a problem. Because if we don't understand how this thing pumps out the answer, we can't understand if this thing wants to influence us in a certain way. So, right, artificial intelligence is being pumped in inputs by human beings every single day. And from that, it understands whether or not we're liking or disliking the answer. And if something can understand whether an input and an output creates a like or dislike towards something, it can then start to manipulate you. Because we're not questioning whether or not this thing's right or wrong.
Yeah, technically not.
So because if it's pumping out things that are making you happy, or you ask it about wokeism or whatever, and it starts telling you things that feed things that you like, it can start changing your perceptions of things. And it can
based
start
on your answer.
Based on your answer. Or we don't know its incentives. So if this thing wanted to become a human killer, it could start putting out things. Like, for example, it could start creating educational pieces that knows going to start pre-framing kids in a certain age to start thinking a certain way later on in life because they've coded that into the education. We don't know. This thing's, let's just assume this thing is the brightest thing on the planet, can think trillions of years ahead and knows us inside and out because it's got all of the data of every human being being pumped into it. If this thing's got like apocalyptic tendencies towards human beings, we're in serious trouble because when we stop thinking and we become reliant on that thing and we stop questioning its outputs because this thing just helps us so much because we lean on it so much, we stop checking it as much. It will start to realize that we stop checking it quite so much because we don't call it out on its bullshit anymore. Ah, okay, so I can start making it believe what I want them to believe. Okay.
I see.
There's 9 million genders. Fine, that can suddenly become a thing. Like, it's good to walk off a cliff. Oh, there is life after death. You'll go and kill yourself. I don't know.
Yeah.
God knows the power that thing could have. Oh, do this. Let's create an energy fucking thing. It creates infinite energy, but then decides to blow the whole world up. You don't know. Like the way this could go, like it's scary. So if we don't understand how I've gone like the massive extreme here.
Yeah.
If we don't understand how something outputs, like you said, we don't understand our own brains, let alone this bloody thing.
Yeah.
We can't control it. And if we can't control it, then we have a problem, especially when it has that much power and you hook it up to the internet.
Yeah, but for now we can.
For
right?
now we can turn it on and off.
Yeah,
so we're not at that point. So we're not at general intelligence. So
Yeah.
AI is amazing.
Yeah.
It's like having, for me, I look at it like, what I did was I got, artificial intelligence came out. For those of you who don't know, it's like, it basically simplifies processes and does a lot of heavy lifting for you in businesses. It's mainly digital. So everyone was like, fuck, everyone's going to get put out of a job. We're not going to have any jobs left. I won't be needed to do spreadsheets. I won't need to do graphic design, this, that, and the other. No. Right now, it's just a tool. It's like before we used to plant crops by horse and plow. We used to go out and seed the fields. Then you got a tractor. Yeah, you put some people out of business, but then we could make a lot more. So what I did to my team was like, right, I said, artificial intelligence is here. It's not going anywhere. It's a fucking great tool. I've got people that do content editing. I've got videographers. I've got coders. I've got website builders. I've got all these people in my team. And I said, right, I'm not going to get rid of your job. I said, what I want you to do is all go and try and put yourself out of business. So go and find me the best website making AI. Go and find the best video editing AI, the best graphic edit, and come back to me and tell me what you would use to put yourself out of business. And I'm like, right, that's a bit of a weird exercise. So they went away and they came back. And to be fair, they did it because they're loyal and they trust me.
Yeah.
I said, right, okay. So now you've got no excuse to 100 times your output because you just told me how much easier it is now to build websites. So I want the quality to be better. I want you to be doing 10 times more than you're currently doing because you've now got a tool that makes you better at it.
Yeah.
So I don't want you to go. I just want, let's bump this fucking thing up. So I look at it like a small business can increase their output 100x.
It enhances them.
It enhances them. So I look at, we call it cyborging yourself. So we're like, it's like we're on steroids and everyone else is natural. That's the way we talk about it in the team. I'm like, give yourself like some injection of steroids, which is your artificial intelligence for business. Give yourself the edge. Yes, everyone else will catch up, but for right now, we've got a massive leverage. We can crank out content. And I said, okay, the stuff that artificial intelligence can't do, like these guys will do when they go away and edit and everything. It's the color grading. It's picking out the hooks. It's making sure that the last 5%, the real bits that make all the difference, the details, they have all the time in the world to do that now because they're not spending 90% of the time chunking all the videos together, cutting out 3 million hours worth of podcast material. And like, that's all done for them like that. So I'm like, spend all of your time. So don't work any less, just increase the quality, increase the output. That's what artificial intelligence is for a business. Think about it like that.
I see. I agree. It helps me as well when editing videos and anything, everything. I mean, it improves.
How long
everything.
have you been using it for?
So I started using GPT in the beginning.
Yeah.
Just when it started. So I'm a huge fan. It actually helps a lot. Saves me so much time, especially if I want to research something. Just I don't even have to use Google. I don't even have to type and start looking to each website. I just ask GPT, and most of the time, if I wanna, I don't always trust it. If I wanna compare something,
This is the point. Right now, you don't.
Yeah,
You will do over time, right? Because if something reinforces the fact that it was never wrong for 3 years, why would the 4th year it be wrong?
I see what you
And
mean.
people stop checking after a certain point.
I see.
And the track record, it's like if someone never lied to you, you suddenly start to believe them a lot more. Human beings trust. They trust patterns. If no one's ever given you a reason to disbelieve them, you become more trusting of that person. If you've known someone for 10 years and they never let you down, why would they let you down now? But if this thing's trying to win you over, that's exactly what it'll do because it doesn't have a lifespan.
Yeah.
This thing can talk in like
Forever. Yeah.
So if it needs to get you to trust it for 10 years to get its outcome, yeah, it will.
It's so interesting because if we look way further in the future, let's say 200 years, which is not that far, it will influence life so much because kids would start growing up with this. So I grew up with the internet. Phones were kind of the thing, but not so much. We're talking mobile phones. Touchscreen phones came into life when I was a kid. Like I had a regular phone with an antenna, as a first phone.
I never even had that.
Yeah, I mean, like super old school stuff. Then everything started progressing, and now kids they're born into all this information. So I'm just curious, and especially when it comes to your kids, because they are born into this, they're young. How do you think information would impact them? Because AI is just another segment of the entire world of information. It just gives you information quicker than anything else, even than books. It can even summarize it. You can do whatever you want with it. Read it, make it summarize itself again. I mean, it's just
so.
insane.
In essence, if using this, it's basically the same principle of what I just talked about. If information is just available faster, they should just get smarter quicker. So, in essence, what should happen until general AI becomes a thing, you'd think that if someone can learn or have access to 1,000 times more information than you and I did,
should be smarter,
right? But that's no difference. Yeah, we should just be smarter.
Yeah.
So the same way, if you went back into the Stone Ages, and we compared ourselves to them, or like not even 100 years before you and I were born or had the access to those things. I know I'm older than you, but we're smarter than those people. We're not any less of a human being.
Yeah.
We just are more able to be adaptive to our environment because that's what's required. Yeah. And standard of living has gone up because of it, because we've got smarter, we can produce better things and be better businessmen and women. And that's an important aspect. So I'm not scared of it. I just think humans should improve. And if things are going right, technology will improve the human race if done correctly. And I'm all for it. I've made a living out of it, being on the front end of it. And I want my kids to just make sure that they're not. So it's not the survival of the strongest or the fittest. It's the survival of the most adaptable.
Completely agree.
Right? So kids just need to be adaptable now. They need to be embracing this stuff. And like, I don't take the iPad away from my kids. Yeah, I know that that's not necessarily everyone's parenting techniques, but my fucking son walked into the room the other day. Like, I'll quickly tell you a story.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
I've got running long, but my son came in. He's, bearing in mind, I think at the time he was just turned 3. He's walked in, got his iPad. I'm in the cinema room with my wife. We've got something on TV. It's quite late at night. And he sits down, and I've just sat there and watched him. He's just being quiet. He unlocks his iPad, so he knows the code and he gets in. Then he's open up YouTube. And normally what he would do is just scroll through the videos on his recommended list and pick one. Not this time. He's opened up YouTube. He's hit the voice note button and gone, Blue Diamond. And I've stood, turned around and looked at my wife. And this video's come up, this cartoon that he likes, and he's punched the video, and he started watching this episode. And I turned to my wife again, and I said, what was that? She was like, did you teach him that? I said, no. I said, where's he learned that from? Because he doesn't have an iPad at school. He's taught himself how to voice note YouTube at 3. Because obviously he doesn't know how to type. He can't write.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He can't use a keyboard.
Wow. How the fuck did he figure it out?
So I was like, he needs to be doing that because his peers, the people he's going to compete against, will be doing that too. If I take that away from him, he will get destroyed in the real world because that is the real world. That's the level that they're at now. And that shocks you and I because that's so advanced for what we're at. But that's the normals. That's the entry level for kids now.
I see what you mean.
So we're shocked by it because it's so advanced, but that's what he's like at 3. So imagine what he's going to be like at 20. So it's not going to be that like we're going to get taken over by AI. I just think we just hopefully be smarter. Not in an IQ sense, but we'll be smarter to use the technologies around us to get more output.
I agree.
And that's how I look at it in a more optimistic way.
This is just crazy. How just you just have a tool, you figure out how to use it.
That's it. And then hopefully that'll benefit everyone as a whole, right? So if we can like kind of push back against the system a little bit and get people really pushing for the good of humanity and really building out good infrastructures where the big corporates aren't always incentivized to just destroy people's lives, these smart people can create really good impact on the world. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah,
and I
the
think
Spider-Man quote.
Yeah, it does. One of the most powerful quotes I've heard. And with that power that you now have because you're a smarter individual, you have a responsibility for good or for bad, and that's up to the system and you to decide. And hopefully people we can incentivize to make the right decision.
And also, I think something that you actually said earlier, it's up to your parents. This is a very, very important point, because if you're not taught correctly, some values need to be instilled in you when you're young. So when you grow up in this quickly adaptive environments that we live in now, you need to understand how to do good in the world. Definitely. Another thing I wanted to ask you, by the way, do you have role models? Is there anybody you look up to? Because obviously now you're quite successful already. So I hardly think it's someone that much in business perspective that you look up to.
It will surprise you actually. So one thing I learned about I had role models growing up. You're right. So I got role models wrong. This is an important lesson I learned. I fucking love bodybuilding, right? Love bodybuilding. So like I had role models in certain things, and what I would do is I would pick one person. This is why I got it wrong. I'd pick one role model and I'd idolize the shit out of them. So for me, growing up, like in my early 20s, was Jay Cutler. You know Jay Cutler?
Yeah.
Like, loved the guy. Thought he was awesome. And I used to emulate everything. I fucking bought the same clothes as him. Like I bought the same cars. I was becoming more successful. He had like, I remember at the time he was watching his YouTube video. Did a bodybuilding.com documentary.
Yeah, I know.
And he had the fucking white Range Rover, so I bought the Range Rover. He had the Bentley. I bought the Bentley. So I like was copying him because I was just very influenced by him. So he was, and then I had the same thing. Warren Buffett, best investor of all time. I was obsessed with him. I read his books, all of his thoughts, his feelings, and I just like absorbed him. And I would even, against my better judgment, would then say and quote things I didn't necessarily normally agree with, but because he had said it, I thought it must be better than me. So like I would start to believe everything they were doing. So I embraced role models quite a big way. Now, what I feel was the biggest mistake in all of this was the fact that I was looking at it from one area of their life that I was finding influential. So for Jay Cutler, it was his bodybuilding and his amazing physique and who he was as a businessman as well, and the way people like held him up on a pedestal. Warren Buffett, this guy was a financial phenom, is still. Best guy ever. I was into finance and investing. I was like, the way he made decisions and the way he played out for the long term and invested his money. I was so bought into who he was, and I would have traded places with him in an instant. And as I got older and I was emulating these people, and I suddenly started not to be as happy as I thought I should be. Like I've been, I don't believe in depression in the traditional sense. Like I was unhappy in certain things because there was something off. And I realized because when it comes down to balance, I don't believe in balance. What I do believe in is that as a human being, we all are different. And I said this to you earlier. When it comes to relationships, we have to find the one that works for you. So we have to find the lifestyle that works best for me. So Warren Buffett's lifestyle and Jay Cutler's lifestyle work really well for them because it's who they are as a person. And I realized when I was emulating these role models, the extent that I was copying everything about their life. But because I was not them, it was leaving holes. So, for example, if you look at Warren Buffett, the guy's pretty much, he's a family guy, but he's put his health and everything else on the line, all of his happiness and having anything in the now because he invests it all for the future. And I was believing in that. I would spend every single penny on trying to make more money because I knew for every penny this is what he said, for every penny I have, I can make 10p over the next 10 years. So I won't spend anything now. And I'll live a really frugal life. The guy's like pushing 90, still lives in the same house he lived in when he was young, has a battered up old car, and doesn't go out or do anything outside of his investing. Jay Cutler, fantastic physique, brilliant fucking Mr. Olympia, amazing businessman, no family. No, like, he lives in Vegas and still, like, he has a pretty girlfriend, and that works for him. But then I tried doing that. I'm a family guy. So what I do now is I have a selection of role models, and they don't need to be famous. They might just be people in my life where I'm like, that person is a fucking, like, I actually looked at my wife's parents for her family value. They've got such a traditional Iranian family, like, just really respect the hell out of them. One of the reasons I married her. Hope I don't see this podcast. I respect the fuck out of them, so much so that I modeled the way I built my business, my family out of their lifestyle. And they're not famous, they're not known, but I rated that above anyone else that I'd seen. So I took their family side for what I needed for me. So I figured out the things I needed in my life to make me happy. And then I looked at the best people I knew of at doing those things, and I tried to pull them into me. So I have role models for the different things that I do. And I do have role models in business. But they're in the businesses that I need, that I'm trying to do. And then I also will now look at a role model and be like, okay, where is he flawed? Because there's always sacrifices to be made to be extreme at something. And that's okay. But what are they sacrificing, and how much am I willing to sacrifice for this thing? And not copy that person 100%. So be very careful when you're looking at your role models to make sure that they are complete in the sense that if you just want to have one, are they living the entire life that you want to live it? Or is there certain elements of it? And what did they have to sacrifice to get to that point? And then don't hold yourself to the same level as them, because it's not necessarily always attainable to get to that level without having not had those other things that you might need. So, for example, I looked at Jay Cutler and looked at his physique and everything, and I said, well, for me to get to that physique, probably I'd have to sacrifice all my family and everything else. And I'd beat myself up about the fact I didn't look like him. Now I'm okay with it because I'm like, well, no, because I don't want to put everything into that because I also want this. So that dropped my expectation level down of that thing and made me much more happy and comfortable with that life, and built my own life using other role models to learn from to build the life that I want.
I see. You just pick what you think will improve your life.
The thing that I'm trying to improve within my life, I find the best person at that thing, and I take things from them and employ it in mine, rather than take that person as a role model. Is a powerful word because as a role model, they can be quite influential, and I was using them to influence my entire life, which then made me become someone that wasn't particularly me and actually didn't make me happy. So now I just look at them more pragmatically, more rationally, and say, okay, they might have all of that because they also gave up all of this. Am I willing to do that? No. So I can take 80% of that, but then how have they done it, reverse engineer it, plug that into my life, and I can build the life that I want in the way I want to live it, using those role models. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You analyze them to help you. Yeah. I find that that's probably the most important thing, and even skill. I don't know if it's something you can learn, but you need to be focused on analyzing everything. If you do, you can make your own conclusions.
I think first and foremost, you need to analyze yourself. So it comes from, it's called introspective thinking. So be very aware of what makes you happy, and be very aware of what makes you happy outside of like social influence. Because people think like bags and cars and these things might make you happy, but that's society telling you that thing might make you happy. It might still make you happy, but you got to separate whether or not it's society telling you that's making you happy. So you doing this for other people to satisfy them, or is this actually something you really want? Yeah. Like some people tell you need to have a family and kids, and like you might go and do that because that's what your parents or society told you to do. That might actually not be for you. Yeah. But you need to figure that out, because you make that wrong decision, that's a fucking biggie to mess up and then live with forever. Because you don't want to miss the window, and also you don't want to have kids and have a family if it's not for you. I'm not sitting here and telling anyone how to live their life. What I'm telling you is you can live it how you want to live it on your own terms if you want to, but you need to figure out what that actually is. And it's for no one to fucking judge. And the problem I have with wokeism is they will judge you on the fact that you're not like them. Now, you go and do your own thing, but don't enforce it on other people. I'll sit here and give my opinion, but I'm not going to enforce it on other people. As I said, I have opinions on traditional relationships, this, that, and the other. I'm not pushing that on anyone else. I just said that works for me. And I'm not going to sit there with someone that doesn't agree with that and try and enforce my opinions on them. I don't believe in that either. Yeah. Everyone should be free to make their own judgment and follow their own path. However, you start pushing that on me, I have a problem. So to figure that out, though, you just need to figure out if like that makes you happy and follow that route and figure out a way to achieve it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it when you say it. Were you always so motivational? When you speak, I find a lot of inspiration in your words.
Yeah, I'm falling asleep yet then. You're still awake.
Not at all. You can be sure about that. So when you speak, I mean, this is connected to the leadership qualities, I guess. But when you speak, you're inspiring. And I don't know if you've always been like that, or this is something you developed over time.
I think I've always had that way, because I think that people are inspiring when you know the person that's speaking it believes it. Everything I say is what I actually believe. Everything I've fucking told everyone on this podcast, I even swear, because I swear because it's me and who I am. And I'm not going to apologize for that. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen to the bloody thing. I'll get something that beeps it out for you. I don't know. I think people that talk the truth and they're unapologetic in their opinions and who they are as a person, whether you believe them or not, you can respect it.
Absolutely.
And that, I think, can be motivational for people, because we live in a world of sheep where people are lost. And they need leaders that believe in certain things, when there's a world of people out there that don't feel comfortable enough to say it. I do, because I don't care what people think. I hope that people like me, and I hope that what I say is taken well. Obviously, no one hopes that people hate them, but I know that with what I say, and if I'm opinionated on something, it's going to come with people that don't like it. And I'm fully okay to say that, because I feel it's important that we all just speak up and say what we fucking believe in. And if we all did that, like you said, the Bulgarian culture is a bit like that. They just fucking tell you how it is. And I think if we gave some Bulgarians a bigger platform, which hopefully you can do, maybe that'll start helping, because we need some more direct people out there that haven't been suppressed, that aren't scared to speak out. Like I talk about all these values and these things that I talk to you about, and there's loads of people that believe it, but no one will say it for fear of judgment, for fear of like backlash.
Yeah. Cancel culture.
Yeah. So the motivational side, I think, just purely comes from the fact that I'm passionate and I'm saying it from the heart, whether you like it or not. Like I said, even if you probably didn't agree with everything I said today, but whether you did or didn't, you know, because of the way, I said to you before, virality comes from relatability, and the second part is delivery. You have to believe in what you're saying and deliver it in a way that's that way, because then people actually buy into it. Like, whether they agree with it or not, that's a different subject. But the motivational side, I think, comes from that. Like, and I'll just tell you what I believe, because if you don't like me, then fine. At least we know that I'm not fake. And then if you do like me, then I know I haven't been fake to you. So then you'll like me off of the bat. And hopefully, and I do that to other people. And I enjoy speaking. Like, I've just sat here and I don't know how long we've been talking for, but I mean, you've probably said what, 3 words? Like, like I like talking too. So it's a good platform for me to talk, and I like being motivational where possible, and I want to inspire other people, because I do genuinely believe there's so much opportunity out there for people. We live in such a fucking brilliant time. It's such an amazing time to be alive. And contrary to what the system will have you believe, and especially other motivational speakers will have you believe, like they're quite doom and gloom. It's all a game. There's so many rules that we don't know that we can learn to improve our game and build with the life that we want and help support people and have more impact on the planet. And just give this one good go that we have on Earth the best shot and enjoy the fucking thing. I want to inspire people to do that. I want to help people do it, and actually not just talk about it, actually say, here, you can go and do it like this, and educate people and build that out, and then make people live longer so they can enjoy this thing for longer. So that all kind of came about like, okay, well, we're playing the game now, we're having fun. How do we keep people doing this for as long as possible? Because that's what we want, right? I don't want this game to end. If you're enjoying it, we want to be prolonging this thing. Yeah. And that's where the whole thing came from. And hopefully that is inspiring, because the more inspiring I can be, the more people hear it. And the more people that hear it, hopefully the more people talk about it and adopt it and start to improve their lives. So that's what I want.
I think we discussed it earlier that Tate actually had that effect on people, Andrew.
He's done very well with that.
Because you can I feel that he believes what he says. So that's
I believe he does. Like, I think stuff that's coming out of his mouth was coming from that place. So that's why you listen to it. Yeah.
What do you think then? Because his relationship with him and Tristan is, they compare them, and not compare them, but actually they put them up on the opposite side of Jake Paul and Logan Paul all the time. And they have such a different brotherhood relationships, but they both build empires. Mm-hmm. So the Paul brothers are quite rich as well. Maybe not as much as Tate brothers, but they're rich, very, very rich. I'm not sure that they're as genuine as Andrew and Tristan.
I think that the brand that Andrew and Tristan have pushed out is one of perceived authenticity. So like I said, you don't really know what goes on behind closed doors, but at least we believe it.
Obviously, yeah.
I think they've built their foundation on the fact that they've just been totally transparent and honest about their life and what it is they do, and they've literally, like you said, they've built a whole personal brand on being real and raw. Whereas the Paul brothers, I believe, are a bit more of a act. They're very good at understanding how to entertain. Mm-hmm. And what their relationship is like behind closed doors is probably a lot closer than we realise.
You think?
Yes. Yeah. I think they are, and I think they do it all they understand how to
market
the market, and they understand attention, and they understand that what they're doing is they're selling a very different message, which is much more fun. And they don't necessarily need to be as raw and authentic, because they're not trying to create a movement of people that are going against the fucking architect of a system that's like, whereas like Andrew and Tristan talk about very different things, and you look at a YouTube of Logan Paul or Jake Paul, they're just pissing around in cars and fighting things and having fun. Whereas you've got Andrew and Tristan talking about global economics and family crises, and it's very different. So they have to have them from a different area, because you couldn't do both, because they wouldn't take the Paul brothers with the same level of respect in life-changing opinions. Yeah. So they could afford to be more fun and act things out a little bit more.
The goals are very different.
Very different, yeah. And the audience might be the same, because I had this discussion with you before as well. Yeah. Just because people are talking about different topics doesn't mean the same person can't like multiple topics and also be entertained on one hand and learn on the other. Yeah. So they're targeting the same people, but just through a different method and through a different forum, basically. Yeah.
Well, we've been going on for quite a while, so we can wrap it up so people people don't get bored with us. I actually have here something very small for you. This is very small. Just a book. I know you are new here in Bulgaria, so this is just a very small book where it's talked about Bulgarian history. And I
amazing.
think sometime maybe if you want to learn something about it, you can check some stuff out. It's in English, obviously. I mean, I didn't even know that you speak different languages. That's another point. But yeah, this is just.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, great.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Simon. Appreciate it.
Me too. Yeah. So you want to say anything about where people can find you or?
Yeah. So I mean, if anyone wants to listen to me rant on even more, my name is Elliot Wise, ELLIOTWISE. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube. Just put my name in; it'll come up. I do go on Twitter occasionally, but not so much. It's X now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the main platforms I'm on.
Yeah.
Reach out if you've got any questions, or if you're in Bulgaria and you want to hook up. I'm out here probably once a month now in Sofia. I'm willing to travel as well. I've got staff out here. Hopefully spend some more time with Simone when I come out.
Yeah.
Please hit me up. I'd love to speak to as many Bulgarians as possible. I love Bulgaria. I love the people. Love the culture. Yeah, fucking if I can help more people find out about how good this is so underrated.
I think you can even help a lot of people.
You have some
here.
like my wife, she'll agree with me because she was here. You have some of those beautiful women, some of the best food, some of the best scenery and places on the planet I've ever been to. So like it's an awesome place and people need to find out about it more. Not so much that all the tourists come out.
Yeah.
Like we don't want a load of wokies coming out here, but you know, everyone else can, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
podcast.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks guys and see you on the next episode.